Thanks, Anjanette. Here to break down the death of Elijah McClain is civil rights attorney DeWitt Lacy and Terry Austin. Terry, in the report, the doctors said that McClain's health was already declining and even a more accurate dosage of ketamine would not have changed the outcome. That sounds like, to me, at least, based on my defense attorney background, that could have been manslaughter or murder. So what do you think is going to happen with the grand jury?
You know, that's a good question, Brian. In my opinion, I think both the police and the EMT should be held accountable, and I think charges should be brought. You heard from Anjanette's report that we did not see the police here telling him why he was being stopped. What was suspicious about his behavior? Was he committing a crime? And then we hear also that once he's down, he gets shot with ketamine and 500 milligrams, which is the maximum amount. And so I think that both the officers and the EMT should be held accountable for this. And I think it's wonderful that we have policies in place now that this has occurred, but I think we need to have specific accountabilities for these actions.
Yeah, policy is one thing, justice is another. DeWitt, we covered this story when it first came out. I want to read you a quote that the report came up with when talking about the Aurora PD, asking leading questions. They said the officers elicited, quote, specific exonerating magic language found in court rulings. To me, that sounds like the investigators led the officers to the right answers to get them off. What are your thoughts?
That is textbook, Brian, for how these officer-involved officer-involved shootings and or death investigations go, especially in civil rights cases. We see it all the time. There's kind of a nudge and a wink here about answers, and then these answers are suggested to the person who's being investigated. And sadly, that's pretty par for the course throughout investigations of officers who have killed people. So I think you're right. Yes, it definitely suggests that there's some type of shoddy investigation or at least some complicity in law enforcement killing people when they shouldn't.
Yeah. And Anjanette, with all of the criticisms that came out of the investigation, is the city planning to do anything else?
Yeah, you know, they are, Brian. The city manager actually just announced that they are going to be setting up or implementing an independent monitor to oversee the police department in these use of force issues. They hope that that will increase the amount of accountability the police department has to the public. And they have also discontinued, the fire department has, with the paramedics, the use of ketamine. You also, Terry mentioned earlier that although that didn't contribute to Elijah McClain's death, according to the review, they found that he was already in distress at the time, but they have discontinued the use of that sedative.
All right. Well, we'll see where those policies